Commander Zexthul watched the human engineer with barely concealed disgust as she adjusted the atmospheric processors in the ship's lower deck. Her pale, soft skin looked like it would tear at the slightest touch, and her fragile bone structure seemed incapable of supporting even her own meager weight. The Krillian officer's chitinous exoskeleton clicked disapprovingly as he observed her work. How such weak creatures ever achieved spaceflight remains the galaxy's greatest mystery, he muttered to his second-in-command. Lieutenant Vorth, the reptilian officer's scaled hide rippled in agreement. Indeed, Commander. Look at her. No natural armor, no redundant organs, no regenerative capabilities. One small puncture wound and she bleeds out like a punctured water bladder. The human Dr. Sarah Chen continued her work without acknowledging their commentary, though her jaw tightened slightly. She had grown accustomed to such observations during her 3 months aboard the ISV Convergence, a joint scientific vessel exploring the Helix Nebula. The crew consisted of representatives from 12 different species, and humans were universally regarded as the most fragile. The Krillians possessed natural armor that could deflect plasma bolts. The Vorthak could regenerate entire limbs within hours. The crystalline Zephyrite could survive in hard vacuum for days, feeding off ambient radiation. Even the gelatinous Blobians could reshape their cellular structure to adapt to extreme environments. Humans. They died if they held their breath too long. Dr. Chen, Commander Zexthul called out, his translator rendering his clicking speech into standard galactic. Ensure those processors are properly calibrated. We cannot afford human incompetence to... The ship lurched violently, throwing everyone against the bulkheads. Emergency lighting bathed the corridor in crimson as alarms wailed throughout the vessel. Dr. Chen pulled herself up from where she had fallen, blood trickling from a cut on her forehead, exactly the kind of minor injury that would have been meaningless to any other species. "Hull breach in Section 7, came the panicked voice over the comm system. "Catastrophic decompression. All hands to emergency stations." Commander Zexthul's mandibles clicked rapidly as he accessed the ship's status through his neural interface. "Micrometeorite swarm," he announced. "Multiple hull punctures. The void has claimed Engineering Bay 3. "Anyone in there?" Dr. Chen asked, wiping blood from her eyes. Ensign Keltar was performing routine maintenance on the quantum drive coupling. Lieutenant Vorth replied, his scales shifting to a pale yellow, a sign of distress among his species. The bay sealed automatically when it detected the breach. Dr. Chen was already moving toward the emergency lockers, pulling out a standard EVA suit. "How long does a blobite have in hard vacuum?" "Perhaps 20 minutes before cellular breakdown becomes irreversible," Zexthul replied. "But it matters little. The quantum coupling is damaged. Without it, we cannot achieve FTL. We are stranded in this system until a rescue vessel arrives in approximately 6 standard months. Keltar will be long dead by then." "The maintenance shaft connects to the sealed section," Dr. Chen said, sealing the helmet of her EVA suit. "If I can reach him..." "Impossible," Vorth interrupted. The shaft was also breached. Any rescue attempt would require a minimum 30-meter void walk between hull sections. Even in a suit, the radiation exposure alone would kill most species. Dr. Chen paused, her hand on the airlock controls. Through her helmet's display, she could see Keltar's life signs growing weaker on the emergency beacon. The blobite was slowly dying in the cold darkness of space, his gelatinous form crystallizing as temperatures plummeted. "The EVA suits aren't rated for that level of exposure," Commander Zexthul stated firmly. "I forbid this suicide mission." "Then I won't use a suit." The entire corridor fell silent except for the persistent alarms. Even the ship's AI seemed to pause in processing her words. "That is not merely suicide," Zexthul's translator struggled with the intensity of his clicking speech. "That is, there is no word for such foolishness in any language." Dr. Chen began stripping off the EVA suit. "Humans have approximately 15 seconds of useful consciousness in hard vacuum, before hypoxia sets in. 30 meters. I can cover that distance in under 10 seconds if I push off hard enough." "Your blood will boil," Vorth protested. "Actually, no, that's a common misconception. The low pressure will cause the saliva on my tongue to bubble, and there might be some swelling, but blood doesn't boil at body temperature, even in vacuum. The real dangers are asphyxiation and decompression sickness. You will freeze instantly." Another myth. Vacuum is actually an excellent insulator. I'll lose heat through radiation, but it takes time. The bigger concern is the radiation exposure, but 30 meters worth shouldn't cause immediate damage. She moved to the manual airlock controls, overriding the safety protocols with her engineering codes. The key is to exhale completely before exposure. If I hold my breath, the expansion of gases in my lungs could rupture them. Commander Zexthul watched in horrified fascination as the fragile human prepared to do something that would kill most spacefaring species, even with full protective gear. Her hands were steady as she programmed the airlock sequence. "If you survive this impossible act," he said slowly, "how will you operate in vacuum without motor control?" "I'll have maybe 10 to 15 seconds of useful consciousness, but I can push off from this airlock and use that momentum to reach the breach point. Keltar can pull me in. Blobites are strong in their natural state." The inner airlock door sealed behind her. Through the porthole, they could see her taking several deep breaths, hyperventilating to purge carbon dioxide from her system. Then she exhaled completely, emptying her lungs. The outer door opened. Space tried to kill her immediately. Her exposed skin reddened as capillaries burst under the pressure differential. Her saliva bubbled and froze on her tongue. The cosmic radiation began its assault on her cellular structure. But Dr. Sarah Chen pushed off from the airlock with every ounce of strength in her fragile human muscles, and she flew, 30 meters across the void, with nothing between her and the infinite cold but determination, and the stubborn refusal of human biology to quit. Her vision began to tunnel as oxygen starvation took hold. Ice crystals formed on her skin as moisture flash froze and sublimated away. She reached the breach in Engineering Bay 3 with 3 seconds of consciousness remaining. Keltar's gelatinous form engulfed her immediately, sealing the breach with his own body as the emergency systems restored atmosphere to the bay. The Blobite's natural ability to change his molecular structure had kept him alive in near vacuum, but he had been too weak to attempt any rescue. 20 minutes later, Dr. Chen sat in the medical bay, looking remarkably intact for someone who had just done the impossible. Her skin bore the reddish marks of burst capillaries, and she would be taking anti-radiation medication for the next several weeks. But she was alive. More importantly, so was Keltar, and the quantum coupling had been repaired. Commander Zexthul stood in the doorway, his chitinous form casting long shadows. When he spoke, his translator barely registered the quiet clicking sounds. "Perhaps," he said finally, "we have misunderstood what fragility truly means." Dr. Chen looked up at him, a wry smile playing at the corners of her mouth. "We break easily, Commander, but we're very, very hard to kill." In the months that followed, as word of the incident spread through the galactic community, a new saying emerged among the star-faring species. Humans fragile as crystal, stubborn as quantum foam. And in the deepest reaches of space, where the impossible was just another day's work, that stubbornness made all the difference.